Dear future me, diary entry May 2nd, 2026. Well, finally sat here with the guitar for a diary entry. Today I want to talk about the sound that I'm trying to craft from the instruments that I'm playing. A lot of people can spend an absolute age trying to find the sound that they want from their guitar, and that might come from the instrument, that might come from the setup, the strings that you put on it, the way that you play it, and also what you plug it into, whether you plug it into a valve amplifier or a digital modeling amplifier, and the type of effects pedals that you might pass the signal, the guitar sound through. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that's in the mix, and I've probably missed out one or two things there as well. This really is a kind of a response to my video last week where I had to fill in a technical specification, and I was sitting there saying to myself, how many connections do I want to my guitar? Because typically I got to a point where I had 3. So I had 2 outputs from the guitar, and if I'll show you here, I don't know whether you can see that on here or not. Can you see that? I don't know whether that's blurred. I'll show here just in case. But this guitar has 2 outputs. It has a magnetic coil here in the sound hole, and it has a piezo pickup that senses the vibrations in the bridge, and that puts out 2 separate signals. I have 3 hybrid guitars that I've got. The first is a PRS. I've got to keep going. I've got to stop going. So the first guitar I've got is a PRS, and it looks like a standard electric. It's got a couple of pickups here, but it actually has a piezo pickup in the bridge. And again, on the end of the guitar, you'll see that there are 2 outputs. One is to the mag and the other one is to the piezo. And that gives me 2 signals out. Now, why is that important? Well, because I can get an acoustic guitar sound from this guitar, and I can also get an electric guitar sound from the guitar. There's another example that I've got, which is a Taylor. This has a lipstick pickup and also has a piezo. It only has 1 output, and you blend the 2 signals together into a single signal. So it's kind of going where I want it to go. But in this particular instance, what we're talking about today is being able to have an acoustic sound and being able to have an electric sound, and being able to bring those 2 things together and present those. In addition, I've got a Godin, which also has a piezo and a magnetic coil here. There's some blending, but like the others, there's 2 outputs, one for the magnetic and one from the piezo. In theory, what you could do is to have the piezo signal going to an acoustic amp, which will then craft the sound around the kind of acoustic sound of the guitar, and then have a signal going to an electric guitar amp where you can play around with it with that electric guitar sound. Well, I want to do both those things, but I also want to do something else as well. I want to take those 2 signals. I want to craft one signal so that it's got a nice mellow, full acoustic guitar sound. I want to then take the electric signal sound, which I would equate to something like a Telecaster sound. So a kind of something that give me a little bit of sparkle in the background that will just sit over the mellowness. And then within that, I want to be able to apply some crunch to that electric guitar sound, so I can get a kind of a rocky feel, rock and roll kind of pop rock feel that sits behind the kind of mellowness of the acoustic guitar. And then I want to use a octave pedal, and I'm using a Boss OC5, I think it is. So I can take that signal, place that into the OC5 and craft that so that it just picks the bass notes for the guitar and outputs those an octave lower. So I've then got the acoustic sound, I've got the sparkly electric sound, and I've got the bass tone that's all coming from a single interaction with me with the guitar. And that'll kind of give me a slightly fuller sound. And then obviously at some point I can then blend in the percussion, which is a foot drum, which we'll look at another time. But the problem that I've had is that the foot pedal collection that I've got, I must have had an issue at a gig, because when I took it out to start playing around with it and messing with the knobs, I realized that it was completely wired wrong. So I've had some kind of issue with it. This is the foot pedal here, just show you it. So there's lots of inputs. I've got microphone ins, I've got 2 guitar ins, I've actually got 2 microphone ins, as well as obviously the power supply, which provides power to all of the pedals and the gubbins that are inside. So confession time, I can't use a soldering iron, and so when I'm building these boxes, I use ready wired plugs, so the female at one end, and at the other end you'll get the kind of male, just like this. So to be fair, this is probably more by luck than design. When I've been using these cables, pre-made cables with a socket, a plug on the end, I don't seem to have had a problem, but I did develop an issue with one of the cables, and it's intermittent, and this is to do probably with the lack of shielding that's on the cable, which is creating a hum. Also, you can see in there I've got the power supply. So if I turn my amp on with this cable live and I bring that near, I don't know whether you can pick up that small amount of humming that's coming from these cables. Let me just turn that off. And now I'm going to plug it in and turn it on. And again, this is just going into a cable, nothing connected to, and this is what we get. That really high level of hum, I'm sure you can hear now. Now, just for the sake of the amplifier, I've turned that off. I'm going to plug that straight into a run of equipment. So essentially I'd be taking this socket, placing it in there, and then just running this as an extension on the back. But if I take it directly into the equipment and turn it on, I've got no signal issue, no hum, no problem with that whatsoever. So the issue is regarding these and regarding these cables. So I need to kind of reorganize what's in here, and I'm going to do that by using a piece of kit that I maybe should have bought. I didn't really know it existed before, but I should have bought online. So I'm going to be using a product by Warwick called the Rock Board, and that will replace these 3 outputs for guitar and these 2 microphone outputs here as well. And it'll also replace the power supply down over here. So I'm going to leave it there this week. I know I haven't got into the various tones with you this week, but I've now got the pedal board in a position where I can do that next week. So thank you again for watching. Do the things it says if it's of any use to you. Just to remind you that the reason I'm doing this is to motivate me to drive forward. Thinking that there are people keeping an eye on me does that, rather than me procrastinating and talking about doing something and not actually doing it. So I'm getting there, but it's baby steps. Anyway, see you next time.